controlling your breathing right now. Feel the power of you enjoying your greatest gift right now. That's you. That's your presence. That's your greatest power. Your power to determine to stay in the present, in the now, and be your true great being that you are. No matter what. In this present moment, everything is here you need right now. So let's see ourselves today doing the best we can in the gym of life. Here we are again. Controlling our minds. Controlling our breathing. One great thought at a time. One great breath at a time. So see yourself doing your best on all the exercises we do today together, here and now. That's your determination, your greatest power, power that's the same in you and every human being on the planet.
In the night I lie and look up at you. When the morning comes I watch you rise. There's a paradise they couldn't capture, that bright infinity inside your eyes.
매일 밤 내게 날아가 꿈이란 것도 잊은 채 나 웃으며 너를 만나 Never ending forever baby.
어둠이 내겐 더 변했었지. 길어진 그림자 속에서 And they said that we can't be together Because we come from different sides. You are my universe and I just want to put you first. You are my universe and you make my whole light up inside. My universe, my universe, my universe.
나를 밝혀주는 건 너란 사랑으로 수놓아진 별 내 우주에 넌 다른 세상을 만들어주는 걸. 너는 내 별이자 나의 호주니까 지금 이 시련도 결국엔 잠시니까 너는 언제까지나 지금처럼 밝게만 빛나줘. 우리는 너를 따라 이긴 밤을 수놓고 너와 함께 날아가 When I'm without you I'm crazy. 자 어서 내 손을 잡아 We are made of each other baby. You are my universe and I just want to put you first. You are my universe and you make the whole light up inside. My universe, my universe.
der Ball an den zweiten Pfosten geschlagen. Direktes Eckballtor! Was für ein Tor! Direktes Eckballtor! Was für ein Tor von Simon Bonucci!
Good morning, guys. I want to share with you an example today of just how powerful our minds are. I want you to think of this example today because it's helped me so much. If a doctor told you that in order for you to live the next month or so, you would have to get up early every single day and work on yourself, work on your mind development, work on your personal growth and development, you would do it. Because that's the power of a made-up mind. There is nothing in this universe more powerful than a mind that has made the determination, the decision. They have determined that they are going to be successful, be happy, be free, be the most positive force they can be, no matter what. There's nothing more powerful in the universe, and you have it. So let's remember it each and every day. Have a great day, everybody.
Leadership, the delegate dance is always about the vision decision. It's about you or the leader or the group of leaders taking the mantle and that authority and accountability to say, okay, we've listened to all interested parties. We've done our best to understand what everybody needs and wants. But ultimately, this is the vision decision. This is where we are going to go together as a group. Someone's got to hold that space, take that mantle, lead that charge, repeat that vision over and over and over. Somebody or some group's got to own that. When you look at great movements that could have been, they didn't have someone or a particular group owning that vision decision. Because, right, you've heard also the phrase, too many cooks in the kitchen, too many voices, lacking aim or organization and alignment is ruined. So you've got to decide, okay, I have this movement, I have this idea. Are you going to be the vision decision maker or among that group? Like in companies today, right? In the crazy times we're living economically, where there's so much funding of new startup companies, as an example. It's all about, okay, who's on this team? Who's the decision maker? What are they capable of? And where do they want to go together? And if you believe in them and you want to, if you're investing in a company, you want to believe in that team or that board, and that's going to define so much of how you invest, more than their metrics. Because it's about that dream team. Who's making the decision? But ultimately, leadership is going to rest on 1, 2, 3 people. And that's why you have CEOs of organizations, right? That's why you have, the big leaders of movements from throughout history. It always kind of fell on someone who had to make the tough calls. And that business decision shapes everything, organizationally, economically. You think of like when a Steve Jobs left or was forced out of Apple and came back in, the approach that he had to take, a vision decision was, oh, you know what? We're doing all these things. I think we need to go over here, and it might not be popular. And there's other voices saying support these things, but this is the track we're going to have to take and have to make those hard decisions. So it's always those things. Have open ears, make the hard decisions. The first principle, open ears. Second principle, vision decision. You have to own the vision decision. You have to be open to it. You have to be adaptable with it, but you've got to be the most committed person on the team, in the organization, in the culture, in the family. You've got to be the person who holds that thing together, who's entrusted with that. I always say leaders are really entrusted with service. They're entrusted with the vision. And as they're entrusted with that vision, they're also relied upon to make the hard decisions. What's some of the hardest decisions you ever made in your life? Like the hardest decisions you ever made in your life. Could be in any area, your relationships, your finances, your career? What are some of the hardest decisions you've ever made? If you think about those hard decisions that you made, those hard decisions ultimately were made because you had a different vision at that moment. You didn't like where things were. You wanted to go in a different direction, and you bought into a vision of how things needed to be different. Whether that was from like depletion, you were just exhausted, tired, didn't like it. Whether it was from a place of just like, oh, I recognize all the problems here, or I know there's a better solution, or it was highly aspirational for your future. You bought into a different vision and you made a decision from that vision. Well, I share that with you because part of the principle here, a vision decision, is to be aware, oh, your whole team is making hard decisions based on the vision. You're going to have to make hard decisions based on the vision. So here's a tough question. What the heck is the vision? What is it that you are after? What is it that you collectively want to move towards, want to achieve? And it doesn't have to be some pie in the sky forever, 100-year out vision. It might be a 3-month out vision. It might be a 6-month out vision. But if you're not crystal clear about that decision that vision with yourself, what will happen is, as people support what they create, as you open those ears, as you have those other conversations, you'll be unmoored to the beliefs, the values, and the direction that you want to go. You'll lose yourself in the noise. And this is the number one thing I see great leaders do to fail. They lost themselves in the noise. So much noise from the stakeholders, so much noise from the shareholders, so much noise in social media, the bad article written about them, the people trying to cancel culture them. They lose their foundation of their vision of themselves and their future, and they start becoming a ghost, fully adaptable and flexible into everything else everybody else wants. And now what they really are is a vessel carrying everybody else and everything else without that command level internally of, oh, I am in charge of this. If you read the Motivation Manifesto, you get the ethos of this, right? Every morning, you got to get up, you got to pick up that spear of purpose, you got to cast it as far as you can see it today. Throw that spear of purpose as far as you can today, as far as you can. And then your day is to go march towards that spear with so much commitment, so much discipline, so much resilience that then you get that spear, you get to throw it out as far as you can again. That is having the vision, and that is having the discipline to go get it.
Good morning, everyone. In our top 10 rules for success today, Jack Ma shares with us rule number 9 for him, which is don't complain, look for opportunities. And this one is one we can apply to everything we think. So that's the challenge for us. Jack Ma has been successful because he has looked for opportunities. He has been relentless. He has not allowed excuses or negative things to stop him. So let's learn from him. Let's learn from each other. Let's learn from anything great we've ever done. You have done it because you saw it as an opportunity. So today, as you go through your day, really fight hard to look at your mind and your thoughts. If a situation comes up and immediately you feel that negative thought coming in, look for the opportunity in it, because in those negative moments, in those things that we don't like, there's an opportunity. It's the change of thought. Have a great day, everybody.
Finding your purpose is easy. Finding your purpose, finding your passion, finding what you're meant to do is easy. And I will beat this drum until everybody figures it out, because it's one of the most common questions that I keep getting asked. We're not taught this in school. The people that we're learning from are not people who are living their purpose either. Your purpose, it comes from your pain. That's a simple answer. Whatever you struggled with, whenever you felt the lowest as a human, whenever you felt the most worthless, the most like you didn't belong, that moment, that's your purpose, to help other people who are currently going through that. For optimistic, happy, ambitious people, we usually don't like looking backwards into the pain. If you're the kind of person watching these videos, you're probably the kind of person who's pouring into others, who's loving others, who's optimistic, who's trying to not think about the rain that's happening today, right? Not focusing on the rain, but focusing on the opportunities and the sunshine to come, right? That's probably you.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to believe in myself. I quit on my business partner. And the thing that saved me was watching the successful stories of entrepreneurs. They gave me the inspiration to keep going, as well as the strategies of what to do. And quite honestly, I still need their stories and motivation today as well. So today, let's learn from me and my team's take on my top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
So the point is not to sit in the previous pain. The point is to use that as leverage for yourself to jump into the next level of life for you. A more meaningful, a more purposeful, a more intentional life. Whatever you struggled with the most, there are millions of people right now who are struggling with the same thing. They're struggling with the exact same thing as you did. And they need your help. They need your guidance, they need your wisdom, they need your story, they need your hope, they need your light, they need your love, they need your energy, they need you to show up. That's your purpose. And that will never get old. That will never get old. That will never get old. Every time you see somebody who is a younger version of you, and you can have a conversation with them, and you can see the hope light up in their eyes, that now they feel like something is possible because they met you. That's a feeling that will never get old. I'll be, 200 years old, sitting in an old age home, still trying to help people believe in themselves more, because that's what I struggled with the most. I am still making content. I am still speaking and writing books and creating videos and doing podcasts and shows, and everything I do is because I'm trying to help 19-year-old Evan. 19-year-old Evan who turned down his dream job to start a business, to make $300 a month, to have no self-belief, to feel like I made the biggest decision, the worst decision of my life. Felt like I made the worst decision of my life. Instead of taking that dream job to do this business, it was hooray, euphoria for a couple weeks, and then realized, oh my gosh, this is a lot harder than I thought, and I'm not making any money. Did I make a big mistake? All my friends were making tons of money at those investment banking jobs that I could have had. And I felt lost, and I felt hopeless, and I felt like I made a big mistake. And I was working like crazy, and I was too embarrassed and too ashamed to ask people for help, to let people in. And I didn't believe in myself at all. That's who I love helping. I love helping humans. You know, I want to help humans believe in themselves, but the softest spot in my heart is for entrepreneurs who are trying to get their thing off the ground, because I remember how hard it was for me to get my thing off the ground. And I quit. There was one day that I actually quit on my business partner. And thankfully I went back the next day. You know, thankfully I didn't fully quit all the way, because I would have regret that. And I think a lot of people do. You end up quitting too soon on your dreams. And so that's who I'm trying to help. With all my content, with all my work, with everything I do, with 12,000 plus videos later, I'm still doing it. People ask me, how do you stay so consistent? How have you made videos for 12 years and have not burnt out? Well, because I love what I'm doing, because I feel like it matters. I don't love the idea of just sitting here in the parking lot of a Costco making a video, but I love the idea that this is talking to you, that, hello, I'm a part of your routine. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And so you can have that too. You know, whatever you struggled with, there are millions of people who are struggling with that right now. And they don't know who to go to. They won't listen to Evan Carmichael because I haven't struggled with the thing that you struggled with. But they'll listen to you because you've been through it. The next part becomes, well, who am I? Who am I to have this mission? Who am I to help these people? I'm still trying to figure it out myself. Do you resonate with that? It's like, who am I to be this person to help people? I still don't have all the answers myself. And imposter syndrome starts to creep in, right? You ever felt that? There's so many better people out there than you, and you're an imposter for even trying. So the way to combat imposter syndrome is two ways. And leverage both. I've leveraged both and still leverage both, because I still feel at times that I'm not good enough and there are better people than me. And so here's the two things that I use. Number one, you see your growth as a staircase. Your growth is a staircase. And you want to climb forever. You don't want to ever stop growing. You don't want to ever stop learning. As soon as you feel like you've stopped learning and stopped growing, you start to really hate your life. You always want to feel like you're growing and learning somewhere. So look at your growth as a staircase. And when you're doing imposter syndrome, what you're doing is looking at the people who are ahead of you on the staircase and saying, oh my gosh, look at that person. They're so much further ahead of me. I suck. Why can't I be like them? Why can't I be like Elon Musk or Oprah Winfrey or Tony Robbins or whoever your heroes are that you look up to and respect and feel like they're so far ahead of you? And because you're not where they are means in your own head, you can't do anything. You can't share your message. You're not worthy enough, right? Well, what you need to recognize is you're still on your staircase as well, but you're not at step zero. If Oprah and Elon Musk are at step 8,000, maybe you're at step 100. Great. But you're not at step zero. You've come a long way. You look back. Instead of only looking forward to see everything that you haven't done yet, look back to see where you've come from. Like, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm at step 100. It's nowhere close to where I want to be. I haven't figured it all out, but I've learned so much more compared to who I used to be. Then understand that most people who are struggling with the thing that you struggled with, they're still at step 0. And you're at step 100. You can help them. You can't help them get to 8,000 level, but you can help them get to step 100. Because that's
this be real? It's like I'm living a dream, but it's how everyone feels. We all unite with one feel. So let's wave our hands. We can sing, we can dance. We are strong. afar. We unite. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. I love this moment right now. No one can take it away. So let it happen and how. It's why I cherish each day. So let's wave our hands. We can sing, we can dance. We are strong. Hold on tight from afar. We unite.
Here we go.
Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. What we see, destiny. Realize now we all know the greatest. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah. Here we go, ah, yeah. This is the time of our.
The Scottish international. Oh, sweet feet, wonderful goal. Enzo Fernandez with a peach.
Good morning, everybody. I want to borrow again from Les Brown just to show the power, as Ron, our growth to infinite mind wealth, of being relentless and determined and having that no matter what spirit. I remember Les Brown in one of his videos sharing a time when he was asked to speak in front of a large audience and he was so nervous. This is when he was just getting started, but the gentleman challenged him to get up there anyway. And of course they booed him, they laughed at him, they heckled him, they made him feel like the smallest thing in the world. But he said after a while, he just kept on getting back up there and he got so good. This made me laugh because I thought this is the power of determination. He got so good at just delivering a speech no matter what, because he knew he'd get better, that he would be catching things as they were throwing them. They were trying to do whatever it took to get him off that stage, but he just kept going. And that was a funny example, and I remember it when I get nervous, if I ever get nervous. So hope it helps you. Have a great day.
There are a lot of sources of brain fog. The most obvious one would be a poor night's sleep. Sleep, of course, being the most fundamental layer of mental and physical health. You don't sleep well for one night, you're probably okay. For 2 nights, you start to fall apart. 3, 4 nights, you're really a degraded version of yourself in every aspect. Emotionality is off, ability to do most anything is off, hormones start suffering. So sleep is fundamental. But assuming that you slept well, there are a number of things. One is your breathing patterns. We often get into discussions of breathing, but this is a slightly different one than we've had in the past. A lot of people have sleep apnea. They are not getting enough oxygen during their sleep, or they are mouth breathing during sleep. These days, it's become popular in some circles to take a little bit of medical tape and tape the mouth shut and to learn to be a nasal breather. There is excellent evidence now that being a nasal breather most of the time, as long as you're not speaking or eating or exercising hard enough that you would need to breathe through your mouth, that it's beneficial to be a nasal breather for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you are deliberately nasal breathing during the day, the tendency is that you will nasal breathe at night, which tends to lead to less sleep apnea, less mouth breathing during the middle of the night, and less brain fog.
Need motivation?
What's your top 10 with the Believe Nation?
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because as a young entrepreneur, I struggled to keep my business going. I had no friends, I had no mentors, I had no role models. And the thing that saved me was learning from the success stories of famous entrepreneurs. And in their stories, I got motivation, and I also got strategies for what I could do to grow my business and not stay stuck. And I still need their stories for motivation today. So today, this one from one of the best, Andrew Huberman, and my take on his top 50 rules for success. Enjoy.
Why brain fog? Well, during sleep, a number of restorative processes occur, but if you're not getting enough oxygen into the system, the brain is literally becoming hypoxic, and a lot of the cleaning out mechanisms, the lymphatic system, et cetera, as they're called, don't get an opportunity to function as well as they ought to. So you wake up in the morning, you slept your normal 6 to 8 hours, but you're feeling kind of groggy and out of it. And of course, there could be other reasons that you're experiencing brain fog. Maybe for people that drink alcohol the night before, maybe they had alcohol. For people that maybe they ate a meal that was too large before sleep, maybe any number of reasons, right?
Gotcha.
But getting adequate oxygenation of the brain during sleep is key. So learn to be a nasal breather. And for those of you out there that say, well, I have a deviated septum, a lot of people think they have deviated septums. The problem is they're not nasal breathing enough. The sinuses actually can learn to dilate if you nasal breathe. Exercising while nasal breathing, it will kind of depend on the sport. Like if you box, oftentimes there's the need to do a shh or, kind of like exhale on impact type thing. So I don't think anyone should tamper with their normal breathing patterns as it relates to sport or singing or some, activity. But what I'm talking about is when you're just standing around, when you're walking down the street, any low level activity, you're working at your desk, you should be nasal breathing and breathing regularly. That will reduce brain fog in many cases.
Exploring in humans is the extent to which people who can take on adaptive decisions, can take that adaptive behaviors, can take that stress response and kind of move the horizon in closer and just focus on, okay, I'm in a high stress regime. This is really painful. We see this in, we work on people with generalized anxiety who are trying to overcome fear of heights, and just walking across a virtual height plank can be terrifying for them. But if they can get one step in front of the other, despite high levels of anxiety, they can eventually overcome that. And so we've been looking at everything from how breathing affects the anxiety response to heart rate, pupil size, et cetera. I'd be happy to talk about all that in as much detail as you like. But I think the principle to take away is this, that the growth mindset is not about suppressing anxiety so that you're able to cruise through things with ease. That's just one part of it. It's really about trying to understand that stress response as key to your growth. It's absolutely key. And I think people that lift weights or run long distance or are involved in competitive sports, they fundamentally understand this, but even they kind of migrate away from it over time, where recovery is super important, but you need the stimulus, right? And the stimulus for growth is that stress response. And if you think about it, evolutionarily, let's say we were all living in a little clan here in the Onit offices, and we didn't know anything about the outside world. We would start to kind of eventually what drove people to leave was they didn't have enough of what they needed. There's this sort of the seeking, right? So if you had enough everything, you had enough mates, enough food, enough water, you'd be fine. But at some point there was some deprivation. And so we had to do a risk benefit analysis. And so it was really about taking that anxiety and venturing out into the unknown to find resources. Some people died and some people succeeded and they were rewarded. And with that reward came the idea that, there's something about looking out into the environment that's useful, that can allow me to have more than I have in the moment. But you can't divorce yourself from the anxiety of wondering whether or not things are going to turn out okay. You can't divorce yourself from the anxiety of strain and effort. There's just simply no way. And in fact, you weren't really designed to do it. So to kind of peel this around to a practical answer, because I often listeners and people want to know, well, what do I do with this? Is, I think the field of wellness and biohacking and high performance is great, but it lacks definition. So one thing I'd really like to see more of in these communities and in the scientific community for that matter is more careful definition. Like, what is mindfulness? Like, really, what are we really talking about? What is stress? And what are stress mitigation processes that are useful? So one thing I think is really useful is think about real-time tools versus offline tools. I believe personally that everybody, whether or not they're MMA fighter, they're into CrossFit, they're running ultras, or they're a student in class that doesn't do anything physical, whatever it is, has 4 tools. One tool to get you to mitigate your stress response in real time. So let's say the stress response hits. You need to keep it, you can't let it go too high or too low. You don't want to suppress it, but something to do that. You also probably want an offline tool that allows you to raise your ceiling on what stress feels like. I'm buds with Wim and I've known him for a long time. And I think Wim Hof breathing is a useful tool for kind of shifting your perception of what stressful is. But it's an offline tool. It's not, you can do it in real time, but you're not going to start Wim Hof huffing in the middle of your rolling jujitsu, because your breathing has got to be devoted to other things. So you need offline tools and real-time tools to cope with stress. And I think people need real-time tools and offline tools to bring themselves into heightened states of arousal, right? So there are times when you're actually too low on the arousal plane. And the key is to get higher up there where you can access even better levels of performance. And so I think the so-called autonomic nervous system, it's absolutely under our control. It's a total misnomer. It's just that your heart rate and your breathing are taken care of on their own. You don't need to flip the on switch. You wake up every morning and, if everything's going well, your breathing and your heart rate is going the way it should. But you absolutely have levers that you can control and move in order to shift those. And I think that there's been a lot of focus on breathing is a great tool, or, the ice bath is a great tool, but we really aren't thinking about what they're best for. And as a result of that, I don't think they'll ever evolve past where they are unless we start thinking, okay, what's the utility of breath holds? No one can tell me. So my lab is very interested in trying to figure out what the utility of breath holds is. Is it better at letting you deal with adrenaline in your system? Is it better at get carbon dioxide tolerance? For all the incredible tools that are out there, there isn't a lot of good information about systematic ways to approach it. And I don't want to peel everything down to a really reductionist approach. I'm friends with Brian McKenzie and those guys. And, and Brian's about as reductionist as you get in the breathwork community. And I love how how he loves to quantify everything. That's one of the things that initially brought us together as friends and as sort of informal collaborators. But I think that this world of biohacking needs definition. It's kind of ironic that in the weightlifting community, they've really worked things down to a kind of a fine science. Whereas in the endurance community, it's kind of like whoever you're listening to seems to be the person who knows the most. And I don't claim to know everything or the most at all. I just would like to see sharper definition on all this stuff about stress mitigation, ice baths, breathing, and so on.
The discovery of growth mindset is worth thinking about. So Carol's discovery was these kids that, for whatever reason, liked doing math problems, even though they knew they couldn't get the answers right. These were sure fail problems. So it's the same kind of people that like doing puzzles. And these kids, not surprisingly, go on to do phenomenally well in a number of different areas of academic pursuit. But what's interesting about growth mindset is that it seems like there's some attachment of the reward systems of the brain to the action or the pursuit of a goal, not just achieving a goal. And when we step back and we look at what that really entails at a neurochemical level, we have reward systems in the brain. They generally fall into 2 categories. There are the reward systems that make you feel really good with kind of the here and now and everything that's within the confines of your skin and the things you already have, love of your dog, love of your spouse, gratitude for all the things you happen to have. And those are generally governed by the release of molecules like serotonin and oxytocin.
Okay. But then there's another reward system, which is the one that drove a lot of human evolution, which is the dopamine reward system. Now, dopamine is a very misunderstood molecule. It's often talked about only in the context of reward. Like, I'm going to work to this goal. I'm going to build my company. I'm going to, get tenure as a professor, whatever it is. And you reach it and you get this dopamine reward. And indeed, that's true. But what's often not discussed is that dopamine is secreted en route to rewards while you pursue rewards. Now, the ability to tap into that system, to subjectively amplify that pathway of reward in pursuit of goals, is an absolute game changer when it comes to things like anything challenging that of long duration or uncertainty or getting through this COVID, pandemic situation. But the amazing thing is, remember, the brain only does 5 things, and we get to decide which of those sensations and perceptions have relevance and which ones don't, or which ones are attached to a goal and which ones aren't. So growth mindset in its purest form is the attachment of these reward systems to the effort process, to the friction process, and not just to obtaining a reward. And just as a kind of final point to that, there's a very well-known body of literature in neuroscience, at least among neuroscientists, that talks about something called reward prediction error. And it says, if you can dose the dopamine subjectively as you go through the pursuit of something, and then have a lot of dopamine when you reach that thing, it's very likely that you're going to reinforce that circuit. There will be neural plasticity, and that circuit will become stronger. So the next time you will revisit those sets of behaviors. The opposite can happen too, where you're in real anticipation of something. This is going to be great. This is going to be great. This is going to be great. And then you reach that goal and it's kind of underwhelming. And that generally triggers this circuit that I referred to earlier, this kind of disappointment or pro-depressive circuit. So dopamine is involved in reward, but it's also involved in the pursuit of rewards. And so as you reach a milestone, or as you tell yourself, I'm on the right track, this friction I'm feeling, this late night, this early morning, this hard conversation with somebody that doesn't feel good, I'm going to tell myself this is for a larger purpose. That's that subjective insertion, that abstraction that we were talking about earlier. And when you start releasing dopamine to those kinds of things, there's essentially no limit on the number of things you can do or the energy to do them. So just as a last point about dopamine, when we're in effort, we're always secreting adrenaline. We're always in pursuit, and it's draining. It's tiring.
On our breathing. Back straight, eyes closed, legs crossed. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel that power that you're using to control your breathing. Your connection to oneness, to what we all really are, to the truth. The ultimate truth. That you were born to win control over your mind. That when we all do that, we find out the truth of who we all really are. Infinitely intelligent beings, powerful beyond measure. The power of all knowing right here, right now, this moment. You're already made of all knowing of the universe. You're made of that same stuff. With that, you can always have and be your true, peaceful, happy, kind, loving self. No matter what. reflect back on your effort today, always remember that if you gave your best in whatever you were doing, that you can do it now, and you can do it forever. That's what makes you a winner. Born to be happy and peaceful, to be mind healthy and wealthy, always. No matter what's going on outside your mind, no matter what anybody or anything suggests about you, any negativity,